Okay, so this is a launchpad example using Google and also Tesla, but we're going to try to forecast whether or not, or model the launchpad using the example from Google, which we got into back here in April or May. So sometime in April, actually to be exact, in May 4th, we got into Google on a launchpad setup. And that launchpad setup is something that Tesla could be setting up for. Right now, what you can see here is we have Google on the left-hand side. This is a previous example that's already been played out. So we bought Google on May 4th. And literally when this thing was looking like a doji, we didn't buy it right off that wick because that would have been too good to be true off of a falling knife type of, buy the dip type of thing. And the gap is still not filled, right? Yeah, you can see that gap is pretty damn scary. Why would you buy? Most people would be shorting Google to see if that gap gets filled. But no one will know, okay? No one would know. So what we do know is we can take some risk when it was at a doji above the 6-day moving average. And the after earnings, the candle literally ripped up. So that's a kicker because it closed way down here, right, at 1,233. This is a definition by kicker, so it's kind of nice. We can kind of explain a couple of models here. So kicker is basically when you have this red candle here and all of a sudden the next candle opens above the close, like way up here. Okay, that's a kicker. So when it created that kicker, that's just like a slap in the face for all the shorts. And then it left this gap here, and the gap was being filled and was trying to fill in the the next days ahead. So it started to pull back, and then all of a sudden it didn't pull back past the 6-day moving average. So in order for a launchpad to work out, you need to have a gap, so this qualifies, and then you need to have the candlestick pull exactly to the 6-day moving average and hold. Okay, so you wouldn't want to get into Google on the second day because the moving average is way down here, and you wouldn't want to get into Google here unless you wanted to do this day trade here. That's a day trade, the wick. If you got in there and you did a day trade, then you're the best trader in the world. However, most people are not the best traders, so you would wait till the 6-day moving average, because this small little wick here, even when you get into Google, that small little wick could mean that you're down like 30-20%. So you got to be a little bit sensitive to these to the price action. However, as you know, it pulled back 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like baseball, right? If we try to think of the market in terms of baseball analogy, then 3 strikes you're out, 4 balls you walk. So this one happened to be on the fourth ball, and it ended up closing above the 6-day moving average, which defines the launchpad setup. Okay, so then that took that set up quite nicely, and then you could just use your Fibonacci extension. So you can just do this measure your wave, whatever, like call this wave 1, right? We don't, like I said, I don't really care about Elliott waves. I think people who do Elliott waves are complete idiots, but because they're counting time patterns within a pattern, you could just lose yourself in that. All you want to do is you want to look for wave 1, 3, and 5. So let's just assume that this is wave 1, and then wave 1 would take us up to wave 2. So wave 1 and then 2, and then I measure wave 1 to see where the 1272 extension is. So that's how you would figure out the first level to take it off of the launch pad. And as long as it trades above the 6-day moving average, you're good. Okay, so that's what Google did for us. Now, after it hits the 1272, you're managing your risk. So you decide whether to hold it up for the 1618, or take it. We close it off right here. So who was in that? Who was in this trade with me? We bought them for $4 and we closed them off for like $12. Some people were in this with me, right? So we closed it off at the 1272, and then all of a sudden it pulled all the way back, right? So that's the importance of that 1272. Okay, so you got to remember that. And then once you figured out, how it pulled back, then you can just decide how you want to play it off in the next wave up. Now moving over to the right hand side, we have Tesla. Okay, so Tesla looks almost exactly like Google, except for it's not a kicker, but the gap is still there, and the gap allows us to measure the move using the Fibonacci extension. And then you can see the next target would be at 923 up to 956. Okay, so now what's going to happen is the 6-day moving average, you can see it trending like this at the moment. We can just kind of do that for now, and let's just make this line green to represent the 6-day moving average. So Tesla's got this bull flag that's forming, but the 6-day moving average, like it did here, needs to meet with the candlestick. Yeah, and the candle has to move towards it, or the 6-day moving average moves towards the candle. Okay, which would be very, very bullish. Okay, so here you can start loading up if you really believe that. I mean, for common shares, it doesn't really matter. You would just hold it because it doesn't, small little price variations doesn't really make the difference for people who are holding common shares. But for options, it's a little bit more in the timing side. So you want that candle to be just like this one right here in Google, and you want it to reach it somewhere around, here. Or here, or here. That could take 3 days for it to get there, which could mean that the next time that Tesla moves could be on a Monday and Tuesday TGF cycle, which it did last week, right? Or this week. Tesla moved up on, what day is this? June 1st, which is a Monday in the TGF cycle. So I would, if we get Friday, so this candle here was May 29th, which is a Friday. So this Friday, which would be June 5th, if we can get like a nice doji or a launchpad setup, then that would be a pretty good opportunity to pick up some Tesla. And also see if the, holy shit, Boeing's still moving. And then also see if the Tesla could hold that 6-day moving average and stay above it. And then you got your targets here of 923 and 956. Okay, so that's pretty much how this launchpad works. So there's no real point. When we turn on the Hikinashi candle on Tesla, you can see that it's still bullish, right? So that gap is not really going to fill. If we turn on the Google chart, you can see that gap there was showing like a Hikinashi green candle, so it's not likely to fill. So if you're worried about the gaps, then all you got to do is turn on that Hikinashi candle, and then if it's green, then the centroid is was defined to be above the previous day candle, which means that it would take a lot of negative news to revert that centroid below it to create the next centroid below the previous day. So that's how you can avoid a gap fill. Now, so here with Google, I was going to get into the position and try to capture the gap fill, but the market is super extended. So if I display the S&P futures now, okay, so obviously we already defined the S&P futures to be in a wave 3, and we're pretty damn close to the 3,147 mark, and there's that green line that goes straight up to fill that gap at 3,331. That is going to be the week of June 15th, I believe. Starting June 12th, this part of the S&P is going to run up like crazy. So I might even just get SPY calls and not trade anything else. It might be hard for me to do that because SPY calls only give out so much, so you have to adjust the weekly, your day DTEs, so that they trade like weeklies. But this one here, the S&P, I think this is going to be moving higher starting June 12th, okay? And that's probably the week where Tesla is going to run up to $1,000. So this, if Tesla's not moving up now, it's probably because it's either consolidating under accumulation, a little bit of distribution, and then also the price point where 6-day moving average in the price is not matching enough so that it could trigger a whole bunch of algorithms to get in long. So that's the plan. The market is still running higher, and believe it or not, we're almost there. We're almost making a new 52-week high. Yeah, I better stop this. So this is the end of the Launchpad explanation.